Red alert sirens sounded throughout central Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem Sunday morning, sending millions of Israelis into bomb shelters. The IDF said it intercepted a ballistic missile that was launched by the Houthis in Yemen before it crossed into Israeli territory. Magen David Adom said 2 people were injured running to bomb shelters. The Iranian-backed Houthis have pledged to continue firing missiles at Israel so long as Israel operates in Gaza against Hamas. This despite multiple U.S. strikes on Houthi targets in Yemen. On Friday, CENTCOM announced additional strikes against the terror group. And the IDF is increasing its military pressure campaign on Hamas, expanding its ground operations in Rafah in the south of Gaza while continuing to strike terror targets across the Strip. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Sunday at the weekly cabinet meeting that the pressure on Hamas is working.
הלחץ הצבאי עובד. הוא עובד משום שהוא פועל בו זמנית. מצד אחד הוא קוטש את היכולות הצבאיות והשלטוניות של החמאס, ומצד שני הוא מייצר את התנאים לשחרור חטופינו. זה בדיוק מה שאנחנו עושים. אתמול בלילה הקבינט התכנס והחליט על הגברת הלחץ, שגם ככה היה מוגבר, כדי להגדיל את הקטישה של החמאס ואת היצירה של התנאים המיטביים לשחרור חטופינו.
The IDF announced Saturday night it was expanding its ground operation in southern Gaza, targeting Hamas positions in the Al Janina neighborhood of Rafah, with the aim of widening Israel's security buffer in the south of the Strip. Meanwhile, the Israeli Air Force launched multiple airstrikes, hitting dozens of Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad targets throughout Gaza, including weapons depots, rocket launchers, military buildings, and other terrorist infrastructure. The strikes also eliminated several terrorists involved in mortar attacks on Israeli territory. During the course of the operation, the IDF said it discovered the remains and personal items of Mani Menachem Godard, an Israeli-British citizen who was kidnapped and murdered by Islamic Jihad on October 7th. The findings were discovered at a Hamas outpost in Rafah and transferred to the National Institute of Forensic Medicine for identification. Authorities confirmed the findings belonged to Godard and have notified his family. His full remains are still being held in Gaza. Hamas released a video of Israeli-Colombian hostage Elkanah Bokhbot pleading for his life. With talks progressing, Hamas has reportedly agreed to free 5 hostages for a ceasefire, but Israel is demanding more.
The urgency of the hostage situation came into sharp focus when Hamas released a video of Israeli hostage Elkanah Bokhbot, abducted from the Supernova Music Festival on October 7, 2023. In the video, the 35-year-old father and dual Israeli-Colombian citizen appears visibly shaken, speaking from a tunnel where he says he's struggling without food or medicine for his asthma. In a desperate plea, Bokhbot warns that military rescue attempts could endanger the hostages' lives and urges a negotiated deal, a message formulated by Hamas, who insists a ceasefire is the only path to their release. Against this backdrop, mediators report progress in talks. Hamas has agreed to an Egyptian proposal to free 5 hostages, including American-Israeli Edan Alexander, in exchange for a 50-day ceasefire set to begin with the end of Ramadan tomorrow. Alexander, an IDF soldier held in harsh conditions, is one of those Hamas has provided medical updates on. Israel, however, is holding firm. Its counter-proposal, crafted in coordination with the US, demands the release of at least 10 living hostages, aligning with the framework from US envoy Steve Witkoff.
وقد تسلمنا قبل يومين مقترحا من الإخوة الوسطاء في مصر وقطر. تعاملنا معه بإيجابية ووافقنا عليه، ونأمل ألا يعطله الاحتلال أو أن يجهض جهود الوسطاء.
While Israel hasn't sent a delegation, it remains engaged through mediators from Egypt and Qatar who are working to bridge the gap. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office stresses that any agreement must secure all hostages and dismantle Hamas's military power, goals at odds with Hamas's refusal to disarm and its push for a long-term ceasefire. The talks, now eyeing a deal before Passover, reflect a delicate balancing act.
And now joining us today in the studio for a special interview to discuss the ongoing war, the Iranian threat, growing anti-Semitism around the world, and much, much more is philanthropist and new World Jewish Congress Israel President Sylvan Adams. Sylvan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So first of all, congratulations on your new position.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And, you're taking up this new role during a difficult time, in a post-October 7th world. So in this new capacity, what are some of the important issues you hope to sort of take on in this new role?
The fact is, October the 7th didn't create, but revealed a latent anti-Semitism that we, honestly, myself included, had thought had largely disappeared. And we knew that there were radical Islamists who were hostile forces in a variety of countries, especially in Europe, but also in my native Canada. We knew that they were there, but they have now been joined by their ideological captives, radical leftists, who have joined forces with them and revealed an anti-Semitism which I, as the son of two Holocaust surviving parents, would have never imagined with things that could be said openly after the post-Holocaust slogan of never again. I could never have imagined these things could be openly spoken and shockingly not criticized, and defended under the auspices of free speech. Now, this isn't free speech because this is hate speech, which would not have been tolerated against any other minority. Can you imagine visible minorities or the LGBTQ community being subjected to hideous, blasphemous, insulting commentary, and somebody defending their rights of free speech? No, these things would have been shut down in 5 minutes. So we are dealing with a new reality, as I said, revealed, not created by October the 7th, but revealed.
And, we're seeing this age-old phenomenon, as you said, take on new life. And is enough being done to combat this also from within the Jewish community? And, what more needs to be done? What can be done to combat this phenomenon?
So one of the things that's happened is these are not spontaneous. These demonstrations, these protests, these tent camps that we've seen, these are not spontaneous events. In fact, these are organized. There are paid operatives who organize them, who run them, who finance them, and they are paid operatives from Qatar, Iran, and more recently China. And they've been at it for over 20 years. There are trillions of dollars behind this campaign. And so we need to wake up. This is a wake-up call for us. We can win the physical wars on the battlefield, but to win, we need to win also in the world, in the world of public opinion. And we are losing that war against a very capable, determined propaganda machine, well-financed propaganda machine. And this is a wake-up call. So we need, it's all hands on deck. We need to unite the Jewish world with our brain power. How are we going to catch up against, as I said, trillions of dollars against, we're 20 years behind. Well, there's a new development, a technological development that is a game changer for us, and it's called AI. And we will be able to combat them, I have no doubt. One of the things that these operatives do is, and they're planted in every city, believe it or not. I'm well versed in this subject, and we know their identities, we know who they are, and what they've done is they have their own following, which is quite limited typically, but then they use these bots, and they are able to propagate their message on social media, which is largely where young people get their information today, and multiply it to literally to tens and tens of millions of people. So we need to use our own, this is a war. This is a war. And we can't afford to lose the information war any more than we can afford to lose a physical war. Our standing in the world is being challenged. Our Prime Minister and former Defense Minister were indicted by international institutions that, again, everything is feeding into this very, very determined anti-Israel, which is really an anti-Semitic campaign. They are out to get us. We've woken up, I hope, and I hope that we're at work, hard at work, looking to correct. I know that I've initiated some projects myself. I use my former home of Montreal as a laboratory, and we have a fantastic project that we've initiated, which I hope, if successful, we can export to virtually every other city, every other Jewish community, and in defense of our good name.
So, we focused heavily on the negative, on the anti-Semitism, but I want to ask, looking to the future, are you optimistic for the state of Israel and for the Jewish people?
I'm always optimistic. And, I moved to Israel a number of years ago, and I like to say that I moved from Canada. I wouldn't have moved to a country that is less open, tolerant, pluralistic, of course, fiercely democratic than my native Canada. Why would I? So I am very optimistic for the future. In fact, the tragic events of October the 7th at a very, very high price ended up with the ring of fire around us and our strategic comeback, both in Gaza, starting in Gaza, but then in Lebanon, the fall of Assad, our humiliation of Iran by taking out so many of its military assets, and our demonstration that that deterrence is back, and our demonstration of our military prowess. So we've reversed the equation in the Middle East. We were a punching bag. We took rocket fire for years and years since Hamas took over in 2015, and now, we had a missile. Unfortunately, the Houthis fired a missile. I heard sirens in Tel Aviv today, but this is one missile. We used to have dozens and dozens of missiles sent over, and so we've reversed it. We are on the verge, and I'm hopeful with the support of the United States and the Trump administration. I'm hopeful that we're on the verge of creating conditions for many more countries to enter into peace agreements with us, including perhaps Syria, maybe Lebanon. If the regime in Iran can be pressured to fall, why not Iran join? And if all of that happens, I can see this being an era of 100 years of peace.
Absolutely. Let's hope so. Sylvan Adams, thank you so much for joining us today.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
And Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz warned Lebanon that if it fails to rein in Hezbollah, Israel will enforce the ceasefire with force. The warning came after rockets were fired once again from southern Lebanon into northern Israel. More on this from ILTV's Mayan Hoffman.
Defense Minister Israel Katz sent a strong message to Lebanon over the weekend, warning the government that if it did not control Hezbollah, Israel would take action.
אם לא יהיה שקט בקריית שמונה וביישובי הגליל, לא יהיה שקט בביירות. על כל ניסיון פגיעה ביישובי הגליל, גגות הבתים ברובע הדחיה וביירות ירעדו. אני שולח מפה מסר ברור לממשלת לבנון. אם לא תאכפו את הסכם הפסקת האש, אנחנו נאכוף.
Katz spoke as Israel launched airstrikes on the southern Beirut suburb of Dahya, the first major strike on the Lebanese capital since the November ceasefire with Hezbollah. The Israel Defense Forces said it targeted a drone storage facility used by Hezbollah's aerial unit 127. Prior to the strike, the IDF's Arab language spokesperson warned civilians to evacuate, prompting scenes of panic as families rushed to pull children from nearby schools. Earlier that day, rockets were fired from southern Lebanon into northern Israel. Hezbollah denied involvement. Like Katz, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that Israel would not tolerate attacks on its territory and would respond with force wherever necessary. In response to the escalation, Hezbollah's Secretary General Naim Qassem claimed in a televised speech Saturday evening that the group has fully respected the ceasefire with Israel and rather accused Israel of violating the terms. He rejected normalization efforts and vowed continued resistance, declaring that Israel will not be able to achieve its goals as long as the resistance, the people, and internal unity exists.
And in other news, the World Jewish Congress brought a mission of federal judges to Israel while touring communities that have been devastated by the war, both in Israel's north and south. These judges connected with the Holy Land and enjoyed an enriched experience of learning and connecting. ILTV's Devo Klein has more.
Earlier this month, 19 federal judges from across the United States traveled with the World Jewish Congress on a mission to Israel. On this mission, the judges were exposed to the stories of the people and the communities that were heavy hit on October 7th and during the Swords of Iron War. The delegation got the chance to engage with Jewish Israelis, Arab Israelis, and Druze, learning about their stories and their incredible resilience.
So important to educate people that have a legal understanding on what Israel is facing in international courts, locally, and just about the truth. And they have the truth to share because judges, their job is to expose the truth and uphold the law.
Upon their visit, judges were exposed to just how precise Israel's actions during the war have been from a judicial perspective, allowing them to gain insights on the judicial aspect.
It's a society that's built on the rule of law. It's a society that fought over judicial reform laws that impacted the way that democracy is constructed in this country. But at its base, it's a country of people who desperately love one another, who love life, who care for one another. We've seen unbelievable acts of resilience.
The group toured the kibbutzim in the Gaza envelope, witnessing the horrors of October 7th, before continuing to the Nova Music Festival site, where young dancers lost their lives to Hamas' brutal attack. The group also visited up north in Majd al-Shams, hearing the stories of the Druze community that lost 12 children from Hezbollah rocket fire.
This is much more about being a leader outside of the courtroom in the community and being able to talk to people about these important issues, including, of course, anti-Semitism, and being moral leaders of the bar, moral leaders of the community, and standing up against anti-Semitism the way we'd stand up against any other form of hate.
The delegation continued on to speak with Rachel and John Goldberg-Polin, the parents of Hirsch Goldberg-Polin, a hostage killed in Hamas captivity, before entering Yad Vashem to witness Holocaust memory. The judges also visited Israel's Supreme Court, Israel's President Isaac Herzog, and the Western Wall in Jerusalem. The judges recount an enriching experience as they heard stories, met key figures, and learned more about the people of Israel.
Just tonight, we were at a moshav in the south with a young woman, 19 years old, who lost her father and her sister on October 7th, and who sang for us a song not of vengeance or hatred or vindictiveness, but of love and hope for the future. That's who these people are. They're strong, they're resilient, and they love life. And it was just frankly an honor for us to be a part of that.
For me, this trip is so emotional and so moving. Even having done this 6 or 7 times already, just to see the love and support from this group. You know, this group is not entirely Jewish. I think the majority is not Jewish. And just to get that collective hug, I think I'm moved as a person just being around them.
The World Jewish Congress is committed to strengthening the ties between Israel and its supporters by sharing the stories of the nation and its people.
And to support Jewish missions and support the World Jewish Congress, scan the QR code now. And hundreds from around the world gathered in Jerusalem last week to confront the growing threat of anti-Semitism. ILTV's Mayan Hoffman was on the scene and joined a semi-private press briefing with Diaspora Affairs Minister Amichai Shikli, who hosted the event. Let's take a look.
Despite criticism over its guest list and attempts to paint it as controversial, the International Convention Center in Jerusalem was packed last Thursday. Hundreds of ambassadors, public figures, rabbis, students, and influencers from more than 30 countries gathered for a global conference on anti-Semitism, hosted by Israel's Ministry for Diaspora Affairs and Combating Anti-Semitism. The event, titled Ambassadors of Truth, focused on the sharp rise in anti-Semitism since the October 7th attack and the need to build a united international response. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar, former U.S. Ambassador David Friedman, and Australian journalist Aaron Molan were among the keynote speakers. The controversy centered on the participation of far-right politicians from Europe, including members of France's National Rally, Spain's Vox Party, and the Sweden Democrats. However, in a press briefing, Minister Amichai Shikli defended the decision to include them. He said Israel should judge these parties by their current actions, not their pasts, while remaining vigilant.
Actions speaks louder than words, and that is how we decide how to address these parties.
In response to a question from ILTV News, Shikli emphasized the need for Israel to move beyond traditional hasbara and focus instead on reshaping the narrative.
One thing to invest in and to push forward, I think, is we don't need to invest in what we call in Hebrew hasbara. I think that we are the only state that has this term, hasbara, to explain ourselves. We don't need to explain ourselves. And I think that also we need to get rid of some of the old mottos. Israel has a right to defend itself. You say it only about Israel. Every state, it goes without saying. It's normal. Obviously, we have the right to defend ourselves. That's obvious. That goes without saying. I think we need to invest in identifying the engines of anti-Semitism, to address the engines and to make it more difficult for them to operate. We need to say the truth. To say the truth and to fight those who spread lies against the State of Israel and against the IDF.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also spoke, warning that anti-Semitism is no longer hiding on the fringes. It's spreading through the core of Western society. However, he said he believes that the situation is about to change.
Our tormentors are now undergoing a change of perception. They realize a simple truth. We are no longer powerless. We are no longer weak.
The conference marked the end of 2 packed days of events. International guests toured the Gaza border and parts of the West Bank, visiting sites affected by the October 7th attacks.
And last night, a delegation of 21 search and rescue officials, as well as the commander of Israel's National Rescue Unit, took off for Thailand after a 7.7 magnitude earthquake rocked the region. Thailand and neighboring country Myanmar suffered a massive earthquake that devastated both countries, with the death toll climbing to 1,600 casualties. The Israeli delegation, instructed by Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, will assist in building an intelligence picture for population-based rescue and engineering at collapsed sites across the countries. Israeli aid delegations have assisted internationally in over 20 countries worldwide, an effort that has not ceased since the start of the Gaza war and despite international criticism of Israel. And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Cloudy skies are expected around most of the country tonight, with temperatures reaching lows of around 13 degrees Celsius or 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow we'll see clear skies alongside warm temperatures with highs of 26 degrees Celsius or 79 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channel, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, iltv.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Ladar Gravelazi. Be well, stay safe, and thank you so much for watching.